Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
It is picked off by the line. Darius Slay's got it. Coming back right side, 25. Picks up a block at the 30. Darius at the 40.
Drink it in, drink it in. Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Rolls to the right. Stafford throws deep. Got a man out there. End zone. Caught. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Marvin Jones.
Drink it in, drink it in.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Cornbread.
Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid, what's going on, everybody? Back here for the Fantasy Football Flavor Show. Now, right off the top, I know I told you guys I was going to try to get a show out Monday mornings, Wednesday mornings for the Koolaid Cast, and then Friday morning for the second Detroit Koolaid Cast where we talk Lions. That is the game plan. I'm still trying to get my schedule together a little bit, and me and Grifka are actually going to be hitting the road for the Lions-Packers game, heading to Green Bay. Going to be there in Lambeau next Monday night, so until we get done with that road trip, my schedule has been a little bit crazy. But like I say, I'm back here knocking out a fantasy football podcast for you guys. So like I say, just bear with me while I kind of get my schedule together, and then you'll be seeing those shows in the morning once I figure out. I've also been trying to figure out, like, how do I do it by Monday morning when we still got games going on till late Sunday night. We've got a Monday night game, but I'm going to do my best to sort of knock out a show and then, pump you up a little bit for that Monday night game each week is kind of my plan. So anyway, right off the top here, let me go ahead and let's see if I can get you guys a quick 2-minute drill. So in week 5 of the NFL schedule, there was some players again that absolutely won you your fantasy week all by themselves. I mean, did anybody sneak Will Fuller in their lineup last minute? Oh man, I did. Actually picked him up off the waiver wire, I think the day before, was sitting there at about 12:30 and was like, I think I want to put Will Fuller in. I think he can ball out, and I heard Kenny Stills was out, so I was like, oh yeah, he can get some footballs. He got a few footballs, 14 catches, 217 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Oh my gosh, I think I saw a stat. It was the biggest fantasy output in the last decade. Like, it was top 3 or something, which is crazy. So Will Fuller, absolutely crazy. Then the opposite side of the coin, I'm in my Pro Football Focus League. I'm having a great week, a great battle. I'm up, heading into the late game on Sunday. The only guy the other guy has basically is Aaron Jones. What does Aaron Jones do? 107 and 4 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, over 200 total yards, 3 touchdowns. Amari Cooper, over 220 some yards receiving and a touchdown. Incredible. Crazy injuries. Sammy Watkins barely plays one down and then he's out for the game. Mason Rudolph, anybody saw that hit, that was just nasty. Absolutely KO'd him for the game. James Washington, my guy, ended up getting injured too. I had snuck him in a few lineups thinking him and Rudolph would connect on a deep touchdown. That didn't happen. Wayne Gallman out for the Giants, but it looks like Saquon Barkley is heading back, which is incredible. So the guy healed up crazy. Oh, it was a crazy week 5. Had some ups and some downs. Looking forward to this road trip to Green Bay and week 6 of the NFL schedule. And there's my 2-minute drill. Try to get in what I could for you. So let me expound on it a little bit. Like I say, incredible in one of my big leagues with all my good buddies. Threw Will Fuller in last minute. The guy tried, I think it was like 57 points or something, 59, something like that in this ESPN league that we do, and got me the W. I'm now tops. I think I'm going to be top of the food chain in that league, so that was good. But like I say, the other side of the coin, losing in my Pro Football Focus due to Aaron Jones. Listen to this. The guy who was playing in Pro Football Focus had Fuller, Aaron Jones, and, who was his other receiver? Cooper Kupp. Between those guys, I think he had 150 points total just in those three guys, and I still only lost by like 10 points or something small like that. So that just shows you fantasy football, it's unpredictable. I mean, even Amari Cooper really didn't do a ton until the end of the game, and he ends up with this crazy stat line. So who knows how it shakes out. Like here's my big beef. This is my little rant for the week in fantasy football. So like, you do all your homework, you enjoy the draft, you think you got a great team, and then like I always say, then the games start. And then you're losing matchups because you left somebody on your bench. You're losing matchups, you got somebody on your bench. You're getting injuries right off the bat to your top players. Or on the flip side, you go into a matchup where you're supposed to lose by 50. You're just like, man, this is going to be a tough week. I really don't have a chance. And sure enough, all your guys ball out. The other team gets some injuries. You end up like winning or even killing the other team. Like, I'm starting to feel like fantasy football, as fun as it is, and as much as we like want to know football, want to draft the best team, want to manage it well through the whole year, it's just so crazy how the randomness of every NFL week. Like I always yell at Griffka on the Koolaid Cast, like he thinks he should just blow people out, just score 40 points a game, and I'm saying like every NFL week I have no idea what's gonna happen. Like the Lions versus Chiefs, everybody thought they had that figured out. Look what happened. Like last night's Sunday night game, you're thinking the Colts are all beat up and the Chiefs are at home and they end up losing. Saquon Barkley is supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks, supposedly is what we hear. He's gone like 2 or 3. So I'm just starting to feel like the NFL is completely unpredictable. I feel like fantasy football, like, yeah, you have to put in your best lineup every week. Yeah, you have to do some good waiver wire pickups, but you basically put in the best lineup you can and just wait to see what happens. And that's always been my beef with the playoffs. I feel like fantasy football playoffs, you work hard for 10, 12, some leagues even go, I think, 13 weeks. You might end up at the top of the food chain. Like, man, I was 10-2 for the season. And then you get into a fantasy football playoff matchup 1 week only. And you got a few injuries. Maybe the game starts and your top running back, tweaks his knees out for the whole game and you end up losing and your whole season gone just like that. Like, gosh, I don't know. I mean, people will say the counter is like, well, that's the NFL. Agree. Like, well, what do you think when the top seed comes in the NFL and it's one game on a Sunday and anything can happen? Well, yeah, I mean, I get that, but I just feel like you never really get rewarded for 12 hard weeks of work in fantasy. It's all about, can you get in the playoffs, and on those 2 to 3 weeks, can your team be hot or be good so you can win a championship? I mean, I hate to boil it down to that, but not only does that what it seems like, but here we are. Like I'm going over these guys that are blowing up every week. I mean, basically, if you have Aaron Jones, Fuller, Christian McCaffrey, like you win no matter what. Like I doubt there's many teams that face those guys that end up coming up short. And the people that played them, like McCaffrey's a no doubter, but Fuller's a guy you sort of either had in your lineup, but you didn't. And if you did, congratulations. That's a W. So it's a big crapshoot. There's no doubt. I mean, it's still fun to try to figure it all out. But man, I'm sitting here in 8, 10 leagues, whatever it is, and every week, there's a couple leagues I'm super surprised about. There's a couple leagues I sit there and go, like, how did I not beat that team? And then there's always a couple too that go like right down to the wire. It ends up being, a play here, play there, just like the real NFL, where you either lost or won based on the last couple plays, maybe on a Monday night game or something. So, oh man, NFL's random. Now I don't have all the details on these injuries, but let me do some more in depth on these injuries before we hit the break, and then I got an interesting topic once we come out of the break for you. So the injuries I picked up on from the offensive side of the ball, like here we are, we're going into Sunday Night Football. I've got this guy in a few leagues all week. Sammy Watkins is questionable. He blew up in week 1. He's kind of been, pretty crappy since. Like he's questionable, but I figured he'd play, and I figured this was a great matchup. Sure enough, you get the alert on your phone. Sammy Watkins is active. I'm like, all right, that's cool, because I really need him to have a good game, which for Sammy is, 75 and a touchdown, 120, no touchdown. Those type of numbers are kind of what you get from the guy. Big play here or there, and maybe he gets it into the end zone is a good week. And so they say he's playing, so I leave him in a couple of my teams. Gosh, man, this guy, I think he played one. I saw him out there for the opening snap, and then by like snap 3, I'm like, where's Sammy Watkins at? Snap 8. Well, why is Sammy Watkins still not out there? Sure enough, like he went out there literally for a couple snaps, and then he's in the locker room for who knows what with this guy. Like I told myself going in this year, I'm kind of like, man, you always like play the upside with Sammy Watkins, and he always has something that holds him back, and he's never even put up a good season anyway, where you're really blown away. So that's what it comes down to with players for me sometimes. Like I like to project the upside, but you got to at least do it once or twice for me to be able to be like, man, remember that year where he had 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns? Sammy Watkins has always been the what if guy, or maybe this year guy, and gosh, he just isn't staying healthy. And if you can't score a bunch of points with Patty Mahomes, you got issues, So he's a guy I consider definitely sitting on your bench these days, not only due to injury, but just because I think we're all starting to see he's Sammy Watkins. He'll probably be cut by the Chiefs after this year, and who knows where, if he lands anywhere, just based on his track record. So Watkins hurt again. Gosh, if you're watching this Pittsburgh game, I mean, I don't know if I've seen a nastier hit Mason Rudolph took. I mean, the guy got blown up, and then his helmet, kind of like Hawkinson, just bounced off the turf. The guy was KO'd for a while on the ground there. It's too bad because, we know Big Ben's out for the whole year. I feel like, hey, man, they're fine. Not only are they fine with Rudolph, he looks like a good, promising, blueprint type quarterback, but he's got his boy James Washington there he played college ball with. So I was like, man, they're going to get it together. It might not be that first week or two, but by mid-season, they're going to be dynamic. Well, we'll see how long he's out. I think I heard some good reports that he was at the facility or he was doing okay, but man, it looked ugly, and you just never know. But Pittsburgh definitely needs him at quarterback. And then I also had James Washington in a few of my lineups, and I guess he went down with a shoulder injury. Like he had a couple big splash plays too. I remember I was like, oh, there we go. There's James Wash making some plays. And shoulder issue for a guy like that's not good because he's always going downfield, going up to get the football. So I'm not sure how serious it is. And then, like I said, man, the crazy recovery of Saquon Barkley. This guy, Saquads, man, he's an absolute specimen. I have him in a few leagues, and gosh, he hasn't even got going this year, and he's still just on a bad game. He puts up like 75 and a touch, or 75 along with some receiving yards. So the fact that he's back, I'd love to see him play Thursday night against the Patriots. That'd be great, but we'll wait and see because there's all those positive reports about him, and then he didn't play. So, I don't have any other notes on any other huge injuries. I might be missing a couple. Like I said, Chris Godwin balled out as well. 7 catches for 125 and 2 TDs. I mean, I remember heading into the season, Mike Evans was like, man, Chris Godwin might be the number one. He kind of said it half funny, but half like, damn, this guy comes out and practices every day. Like Mike Evans couldn't either keep up or was having trouble holding this guy off. I mean, Godwin's been the guy there in Tampa. I think Mike Evans had one huge game for sure, and he's played pretty well. I think he put up a goose egg this week. I'm not sure if he's hurt or what. I didn't see him on the injuries, but 0 for 0 will kill you. So, Godwin balled out. I still feel like Jameis Winston is a little bit of a, gosh, I always wanted to believe in the guy, but the more I watch him too, I feel like he's going to have these crazy weeks every once in a while, but he's also going to kill you with interceptions. He's going to, forget what team he's throwing it to half the time. And, gosh, I just don't see him being a top flight NFL quarterback based on a lot of different factors. So, yeah, they got some talent there. Yeah, Bruce Arians likes to throw it around, but I'm starting to definitely feel like the upside of Tampa Bay is kind of, in regards to their skill players as well as their quarterback. But yeah, those are the people that balled out. Those were the injuries I saw, and like I said, that was my week in fantasy football. Probably 2, 3 good wins. I was like, yeah, that's a good W right there. And then at least two where it's just like crushing losses with the Aaron Jones putting up 4 touchdowns. And there's just the one league on Reality Sports Online, which I told you guys all about. I hope you guys signed up or have been enjoying that. If not, you got to check them out next year, no doubt. RealitySportsOnline.com. But there's the one league there where I'm the double champ, the back-to-back champ. And then this year, I still love my lineup. My starting lineup is still, now that everyone's back and healthy, it's basically like, you know, Matt Ryan, Deshaun Watson, Melvin Gordon, Saquads, Mixon, and my receivers, Odell, Hopkins. I got Galladay. I've got Diggs. I've got Josh Gordon. I've got Watkins. All these people that are playmakers. And I can't find a W in that league this year. Again, back-to-back champ, trying to defend my crown. I'm coming up short every week. Even this week, I played an incredible week, put up great numbers. I play against Christian McCaffrey and a couple other crazy players, and I come up short. I end up losing by, a small margin. So, those are tough. Like I say, you always kind of remember the losses, more so than the dubs that you get. But yeah, it's been a tough year. I am glad that one ESPN league I've been doing for a long, long time with a bunch of buddies, keeper league, all that good stuff. I needed to bounce back in that league, and me and the Big Hughes, I think we'll be at the top of the standings after this week is said and done. So we're not only having a showdown this next week, but we just keep telling each other, man, hopefully this year in fantasy football we can have a showdown in the championship in a couple matchups, because me and him always have fun talking fantasy football and always want to just compete and be the best, no doubt about it. So we will hope and see how that shakes out here as the year progresses, and once we get into those playoffs, should be interesting. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and get our sponsors in here. We'll get them in. Please support them. Please listen to those ads. Please keep listening to this podcast as well as the Detroit Koolaid Cast, where we talk Lions twice a week. Really helps us out. Share it with a friend. Tell people about it. Me and Grifka love joking, arguing, having fun, talking Lions football. And then I'm just kind of getting in my groove here with this fantasy football podcast, where I'm giving you guys some things to think about. You can always check out my article on Lions Wire, USA Today Lions Wire. Comes out Thursday mornings, the Fantasy Football Weekly, where I'm talking injuries, I'm talking top performers, I'm talking matchups, I'm talking Detroit Lions fantasy impacts. I'm talking everything there that you can check out in a quick summary. Can read it while you're having your breakfast there in the morning, and all that good stuff. So please support us. It helps us keep this show going, as well as the other shows, as well as just fun interacting with you guys on Twitter and all types of stuff. So you can hit me up at Derek Okrie, DEREK OKRIE on Twitter, and send me your questions, chat, have some jokes. People still sending in the Caruso one-liners, which I always think are hilarious on there too. So let's go ahead and get those sponsors in. I'll come right back with an interesting topic that you don't want to miss. I'll be right back.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
All right, everybody, back here on the Fantasy Football Flavor Show on the Detroit Koolaid Cast platform. So I've been trying to tell you guys about topics that might interest you, or strategy. I know some of my buddies who listen to this are probably getting all my little nuggets that I try to do behind the scenes to get those W's. But I've been giving you advice, giving you things to think about. I think the other week, what did I talk about? How to stack players. I talked about, how to use that IR spot to your advantage, stuff like that. So today I put another one on here that I think not a lot of people think about, but it's pretty important and kind of a tricky, unique way to maneuver your roster. So today I want to talk about when and how you cut a player. So every week, people are the week ends on Monday night. Tuesday, you kind of get those results, and then by Tuesday, you're sort of having to put in your waiver claims. And usually by Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, that first set of waiver claims clears. So usually people are freaking out, oh, this guy didn't perform, drop him. Let's pick up this hot guy on the waiver wire or has a good projection. I'm much more the guy that sort of waits it out. I'll kind of look at my lineup. Do I got any major injuries? Do I have any issues across the board they need to address? So I'll look at those. Then I want to see, is there a really quality player out there that's available? If there's a top guy that somebody let go or a guy that is a plug and play starter, yeah, I'll go after him and try to add him to my team. I know what was it, 2 years ago? When Kerryon was a rookie, one of my other buddies had drafted him in this keeper league where we have a rule where you can, if you obtain a guy in their rookie season, you can keep them in what's called a dynasty rookie spot. So you can basically keep them forever in that slot if you obtained them in that rookie season. So it's a pretty important spot. Some guys that had, Andrew Luck there for years, other guys are hanging on to the Kamaras of the world in that spot. Somebody who got Barkley, is like going to keep them in his rookie slot forever. So this one guy drafted Kerryon. I remember in the draft, I was kind of like, oh man, I was like looking to get him, but obviously hadn't done anything yet. So the first couple games he came out, didn't do anything, was splitting time with LeGarrette Blount. Somebody cut him. So again, too early to cut. You don't cut talents like that in good situations. So I went in big. I was just like, that's a guy I want in my rookie slot. I went in. I basically spent my entire waiver budget. Where you actually have like $100 of fantasy money, and you plug in, however much you want to pay for a guy to try to get him off waivers. That's kind of where things are going nowadays, more so than the old style, which was like the worst team would just get whoever they wanted. Now it's much more of a bidding process, and I'm fine with the bidding. I feel like it's tough sometimes because I do feel like when the worst team gets a first waiver claim, it kind of evens out the league, whereas some people, they either don't spend the time or don't know how to use their waiver budget. They might be the worst team in the league, and then the best team is always getting like a really good free agent because they just know how to use their dollars and pay attention a lot more. But like I say, back to my point. So with Kerryon, I basically put my whole budget on him. I won him. Now he's in my rookie slot. Now he's panning out to be a really good running back, a top flight, number one type running back. So like that's when you go in big. But what I want to talk about today is like, so when do you cut a guy, and then when do you also like cut a guy to obtain another guy? How do you do it? So my thing is only cutting a player, after he's consistently shown, throughout a year that, or his career, that there's issues. So let's say, like I said, I'm getting to the point with Sammy Watkins where he's still too good to totally cut, but he's not only from starter to bench, in kind of more of a standard league. Like he's benched to, okay, if he really is hurt for multiple weeks, or even if not, if there's a better player, I'm looking to replace him. So, I don't want to quit on guys too early. I don't want to like see an injury that's only a week or two and say, oh, I got to move on from this guy, when holding him for that week or two that you can get by based on your roster size, your current lineup. There's leagues where like I didn't have Melvin, but I had other players. So of course, like, I'm just going to kind of ride it out with Melvin and wait till he gets back up to full speed and then still have a great football player. I'm not going to move on from him just because he was out for a while, or some of these guys that'll have injuries for, probably like the 4-week mark is sort of, one of my barometers. Like if you have a guy that's out 4+ weeks, that's more than a quarter of the fantasy season. It's probably, especially in a redraft league, you're going to want to move on. But if they're out a week or two with some uncertainty, you definitely want to hang on to them and hope that, all shakes out well. So look at your lineup, gauge those injuries, as well as like look at who your backups are. That's why I always preach depth, because the only way you can stash good players for multiple weeks is if you have depth and can plug in another guy that will get you points and hopefully get you W's. But the tricky thing that I also want to address today is like, when do you cut a guy? So let's say the Tuesday rush comes, into Wednesday, that first push. I usually will wait, not do waiver claims if I don't have any pressing needs. But let's say I maybe have a few guys out there on waivers where I'm like that might be an upgrade to somebody that I currently have. So the tricky part I'll do, and you have to sort of know what your league settings are or whatever, is like I'll wait till the very end. I'll keep my eye on the guy. Let's say, my one league, you can pick up people, on Sunday morning for free, basically. They already went through the waiver claims. We took them. You can go add and drop as you want after that, which I still think is the best way to go. I mean, you shouldn't have to bid on guys every day. Once the bidding process goes and nobody wants a guy, he should be free, in my opinion, to go grab, or free in the way that maybe you have to spend $1 on him, that dollar minimum. I'm fine with that too. But this random bidding process after he's basically already went through the first ringer, I don't like. I do think whenever a guy is cut, he has to go through that day wait, whatever it is, so everybody can, oh, hey, they cut so-and-so. Everybody has a day to sort of put in a bid if they want. I don't like where, guys cut and immediately available. That's not fair because somebody might just be on the website more than others or whatever. But what I do, if I'm kind of like just want to upgrade a position or like I'm hesitant to drop a guy, don't want somebody else to get him, what I'll do is just wait till that final day. And like I say, in my one league, it's Sunday mornings you can pick up people. And that's when I'll do my pickups, because then I know too that player's not going to come back and bite me that week. Like let's say you had Will Fuller this week, but you were ready to get rid of him. Instead of getting rid of him on a Wednesday where somebody else could have added him to their team and absolutely killed you or killed another person in their league by playing him, let's say you're like, man, I like Will Fuller, but I'm ready to cut him. I don't think he's going to do anything. If you use my strategy and drop him as late as possible, not only can nobody else probably pick him up in time to play them either against you or in their league that week, the really sneaky part is, so let's say you drop a guy on Sunday morning, pick up somebody else. Okay, now that guy's frozen where he can't be played by anybody or picked up, and he's frozen until waivers again. So let's say you drop Will Fuller, nobody can pick him up, he blew up. Now you at least have a chance to go back and get him again, on Tuesday or Wednesday night, whatever it is, whenever your waivers clear. So, he had such a great game, maybe you think he's going to be great the rest of the year. You go back in waivers and you pay huge to try to get him back. So basically you didn't even lose him. You just cut him, froze him, and then got him back afterwards because you strategically cut him rather than, well, let me cut him on Wednesday and pick up, who's like a mid-level receiver that's decent. I mean, picked up, one of the Packers guys, Geronimo Allison. Let's say he's out on waivers in a short league. That's just a roll of the dice, whereas some of these other players are good people, but maybe they're hurt, maybe they're guys you want to cut because you need to add a guy. And just do it as late as possible. Figure out what those loopholes or what those deadlines are in your league and play them to your advantage. So, if I don't need to cut a guy on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, why would I? Same thing with Thursday night football. Let's say you have a guy on your roster that plays on Thursday, but you're, one, not playing him. He's on your bench. Or two, he's iffy or he maybe hurt a little bit. Don't drop him on Tuesday or Wednesday, where another team could at least pick him up and stash him in their lineup, especially if he's a good player. Like wait till, Thursday morning, drop him, pick up another guy, and that way the 24 hours won't clear. He will be not able to be picked up. His game will pass on Thursday night, so then he's frozen all the way until waivers again. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of tricky things you do just so if you need to cut a guy, you can, but you can also maybe get him back, or you can just manipulate your roster that way. So, when you cut a player, how you cut a player, as well as looking around and knowing like, hey, if I let this guy go, let's say it's a mid to upper mid receiver, you almost need to know in your league, is there another team or two that is dying at receiver? If so, if I cut this guy, are they just going to pick him up and is it going to benefit their team? Same with, trading. I don't scour my leagues looking for, well, hey, who's weak at running back, who's weak at receiver, and try to trade. Some people are good at doing that, but let's say I'm getting about ready to get rid of a guy, but he's good. He's a good player. He's been good in the past, or he has a lot of upside. before I cut him loose or before I move on from him, I may look to see, who might be looking for running back, wideout, whatever it may be, and check with them. Hey, any interest in Sammy Watkins, and just see what they say. And if they say no, or there's absolutely nothing, just say okay. Don't even say like, well, I'm about to cut the guy. You just kind of check in with them, see what they're thinking, and if they have any interest. And if you're gonna cut him anyway, that's where you make a minor deal. You're just like, hey, give me so and so. Gosh, what was it? Classic example of that. I hate to call him out on the podcast, but you'll probably enjoy it. So Frank Ribble, well known on Twitter as well as a starch supporter of the Detroit Koolaid Cast. He's in the Kool-Aid League, the Detroit Koolaid Cast Fantasy League, and man, I've been scouring for a defense because I waited in this 20-team league and only had the Oakland Raiders, the last defense drafted, and there's nothing else to pick up. So I was like, man, I need to find a way to get a defense, but I really don't want to give up anybody good. So Frank was scurrying around trying to get a quarterback left, right, and center. And I watched him, he put out a few tweets about it, he put out a few messages, and I heard he was getting close to deals with a few other teams. So I was like, let me look. So I have Carr and Andy Dalton on my roster. And I'm like, I could maybe give up one of those guys for Frank's defense. Maybe he'd give me another piece, like an offensive skilled player that might help me. But sure enough, I waited super late in the week, and right when word came out about Darnold not playing, I went up and I picked up Luke Falk. And because I knew Frank Ribble, you're my guy, Frank, was in desperate mode, I was like, hey, Frank, I got Falk. How about you just throw me that defense? We'll call it good. Making it sound like it was nothing, but me really needing a defense, especially when he had the Houston Texans, which I like their defense, as his backup. And sure enough, Frank hit accept on that trade. Luke Falk did what I figured Luke Falk would do, which was have a pretty terrible week. Didn't want to give Frank a bad player, but I just knew Luke Falk wasn't really that good for the Jets. But Frank, didn't have any other options. All his quarterbacks were injured, and he needed to get somebody in that lineup and couldn't make deals with other people. So for him, it was kind of a roll of the dice he had to do, as well as, just needed somebody. So, like I say, that's kind of the way I work it, where you're sort of trying just to not only be smart, but, just kind of maneuver things, figure out, a lot of times with my trades, it's just a matter of somebody coming to me and saying like, hey, would you trade so-and-so? And I will say, sure, willing to negotiate or whatever, and then see where they're at. A lot of times I'll be like, no, that's not enough, or no, I'd rather just keep them. But sometimes, a trade can happen just from those quick messages. So I don't go out and search it, or even waiver wire. I'm not out there, multiple times a week just trying to see who's available. I just duck in if I know I got injuries or I know I have times. But I also, if I'm going to cut people, if I'm going to maneuver my roster, I try to be as tactful as I can. So, like I say, the minute I saw Vance McDonald, Christian Kirk was out, I put him in my IR slot so I could pick up another receiver. Now, if you go back and look at my big league, that receiver happened to be Will Fuller, who went for, 217 yards and 3 touchdowns. Basically, helped me big time. So that's just adding a player because I had an open roster spot, and that player ended up going in my starting lineup and being incredible. So that's probably the best lesson I could give, or best example right there of some, manipulating your roster and being able to do so. You can also do that on waiver wire and trades and all types of stuff. So that's just the topic I wanted to get into today. I think I'll just hit you with those top performers, gave you some injuries, and just that topic on how to manipulate your team via the waiver wire, when to cut guys, how to cut them, and tactful ways to do it so that you can not give up players that will come back to haunt you later. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. Hit me up on Twitter with your fantasy football questions, as well as Detroit Lions stuff. I love talking football, and we will be back. We'll have to figure out how to do one next week. Me and Griffker are going to try to do a couple podcasts on the road, as well as maybe at the Lambeau parking lot. We'll see how all that shakes out, but should be a fun week the next couple weeks, talking Lions and talking fantasy football. So thank you so much, everybody. Take care. I'm out.
Pack the bag!
start the plane. This game is over. It is over.
What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.